Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Freedom Project stream. Today, we're going to talk about positive effects music has on your mental health. Right? Music is a powerful thing. Aside from its entertainment value, listening to music is known to have incredible positive effects on our brain. More specifically, music can change the way we act, the way we feel, and the way we think. So, how does this factor affect into managing our mental health? Right. So today our guest is Mr. Steve Poolton. Good afternoon, Mr. Steve. How are you?
Good afternoon. Very well, thank you.
Mr. Steve is the co-founder and CEO of Seven Bridges Radio. It's an online radio station that is committed to helping people with mental health issues within the community. Their plan is to get into a studio where people can come, try to help and train them to help build their self-esteem and gain skills necessary for employment opportunities. Uh, is that right, Mr. Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously we launched in January, so we're still very new, coming up for 6 months. And with COVID, obviously we can't all get together at the minute. But the plan is, as soon as we can, get into a studio and help people build their self-esteem and do training and work with music. So
Yes. Thank you. So, uh, so to begin directly, I would like to jump into the questions if that's okay with you.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely, yeah.
So my first question is personal to you. It's more about yourself. So can you give us a brief introduction about yourself and the work that you are doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm now in my late 40s, and I went to university as a mature student 5 years ago now to study psychology. And while I was there, I've had mental health issues since I was 20. I had some problems with my mental health, and I didn't finish the course. But I learned about radio through the university radio station, and when I finished university, when I dropped out, I was talking to some friends about what we could do or what I could do for work, and we thought this would be an idea. So it took a year. We put everything together, and we launched the radio station, as I say, in January with the plan to help people with mental health. At the moment, we're just 24 hours a day music streaming. We've got shows, live shows, recorded shows, but also just playlists to fill in gaps. But the plan is I'm currently conducting interviews with people in social media to discuss mental health and the effects that being on social media has with your mental health. Plus, I'm talking to mental health professionals about doing some shows like a phone-in show or an advice show and discussions about their particular topics. So, I mean, that's where we are at the minute. And, we're hoping just to slowly build and slowly grow and get on to bigger and better things and to help people in the local community and obviously worldwide, with it being international radio, internet radio, you can talk to anybody around the world about mental health and hopefully break some of the stigmas.
Yeah. And we would wish you all the best, to reach that point and get there, right?
Yeah.
So my next question is related to what you are doing currently. So
Mhm.
what led you to do what you're doing today?
As I
And
say, yeah, sorry.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, yeah,
as I say, having dropped out of university, it was what do I do for a living? I'd been a chef for 20 years, and I didn't want to go back to that. It's long, punishing days, and I'm getting older. So we decided about this, and somebody jokingly said, "Oh, why don't you set up a radio station?" And it seemed like a good idea. We'd had a couple of drinks, and everything seems like a good idea when you've had a drink. So we kind of ran with that in the end. And here we are, sort of 18 months, nearly 2 years later, and we've got this radio station. And I thoroughly love what I do. So each day being at work doesn't seem like work, if you enjoy it. And I noticed, because of my mental health issues and my friends who have mental health, I became aware of the effect that music has on, well, we all did, became aware of the effect that music has on you, and it's interesting how different music affects different people.
Yes.
And we wanted to explore that, and we wanted to put, be a radio station where we play so many different genres of music. So you might not like you might not like what we play 24 hours a day, but at
Yes.
some point in that day, there'll be something that you like, hopefully. So, we've got the schedule up on the website so that people can see, and when you can tune in, and it's going to be the best music for you.
Yes. Like you said before, once you go to work, it shouldn't feel like, tasking. It shouldn't.
Yeah,
So what you're happy with, and we're glad you like this, and you're committed to spreading mental health awareness around the world. So thank you so much for doing that.
thank you.
Yeah. And so World Mental Health Day is in 3 months from now, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so what are your thoughts on World Mental Health Day to develop resilience and awareness in mental health?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that does this, that gets it out there, is a good thing, as long as we don't just stick to that particular day, or like Depression Awareness Week or something. As long as it starts the conversation and it goes from there. Excuse me. Sometimes you find that for some subjects it's just for that day and then it gets forgotten about. So I think it's a very important jumping off point, a very important starting point, and it's when it comes to developing resilience, I think it's really good because it kind of me the more we discuss mental health, the more people feel they can discuss their own mental health, and that
Yes.
helps build a team around them and a community which they
Yes.
can then rely on, and you get that resilience and everything from that, I believe.
Yes. Exactly. Like you said, once we have the people around us, or like we talk about our mental health, we get people around us to talk about mental health and to build that resilience and to build awareness, right? So
Absolutely.
so my next question is related to this. So how can we as individuals work with our inner circle to reduce stigma and help increase the knowledge about mental health?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it can be something as simple as talking about it, um, and encouraging conversations. And you know, I believe that as somebody who's had mental health issues for most of my life, I was diagnosed in my late teens with depression and anxiety, and then later with ADHD. I've had suicidal issues and things like that through depression. And for years, I didn't talk about it to anybody, or I felt embarrassed to talk about it because it wasn't the manly thing to have. You've got to bear in mind, I'm a generation probably above you, and it was
Yes.
very tough to discuss in the UK back then, and I know worldwide it still is. Um, but the more it becomes normalized and the more it becomes part of a general conversation, I think that can only be a good thing. And we can't all go and launch a radio station. We can't all go and launch a YouTube channel. We can't all develop a charity. But just by talking to each other, you can do that. And then those people who can, or who have the ability, or who have the time to develop a foundation, to develop a YouTube following, develop a radio station, or to work on a radio station, whatever, you know, that's the next step. And we need to keep making it normal until our governments and our local authorities realize that mental health is the same as physical health, and it shouldn't be something that's swept to one side. And we just need to say, right, a broken leg is an accident, or is an illness, or a cold is an illness, the same as depression is, or bipolar is, or schizophrenia is. It's just chemical imbalance in your brain. It's not something you can help, and we need to make this a more normal conversation.
Yes, exactly. So the more we talk about it, the more awareness we create, and the
Absolutely.
more awareness we create, the more people are. inclined to sharing their thoughts and getting rid of it or getting benefited from it,
Yeah.
right?
And that brings the stigma down, and then
Yes,
more people will talk, and that brings it further down, and more people will talk, and eventually it just becomes like talking about the weather or talking about your favorite football team. It's I mean, I dare say in India it's the same. You'll say to somebody, "How are you?" is a form of a greeting, but you don't necessarily expect a real answer. You expect sort of like, "I'm fine" or "Okay, thanks." You
yeah,
don't expect somebody to go, "Well, I'm not having a good day." And we need to be able to do that.
yes, exactly. That so the I am fine, I'm fine. That is something that everyone uses it so commonly that it's even if they're not okay, they just have to put on that card or facade that yeah, I'm fine. And
Okay.
especially in males,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You have that pressure like, oh, if I own up to my, or if I feel like, if I tell someone that I'm not feeling well, I feel depressed, they go into that stigma that, oh, it comes off as non-manly, or you know people might stigmatize them or look at them differently, right? So that is that something that we have to reduce, right? uh, so my next question is related to mental health, the World Mental Health Day, right? So this year's topic, that the theme that this year they've chosen, like is chosen, is mental health in an unequal world, right?
Yeah,
There are different places, like suppose, right, like you're in the UK and I'm in India. uh, UK is a more developed country than India, right? So mental health is talked about more, or like it's talked about at a level where it's not talked about in India, because there's different reasons to that as well, right? It can be the population, it can be the development, it can be various reasons, right? So how would you interpret mental health in an unequal world?
yeah. I mean, excuse me. This is something that I was you're vaguely aware of, and you're right. We are in a very, I suppose we're in the UK. We're in an advanced situation with this, where we're probably 10, 15, 20 years ahead of a lot of countries.
Yes,
I mean, I've just discovered, because I've got a friend who lives in the Czech Republic, and she's been at home, and her mental health's not good. She's come back to the UK for a couple of months, and we were talking about it. And she said how far, even in the Czech Republic, in Europe, which, is supposed to be all developed, you can't mention mental health in public because you get, it's, oh, no, there's something wrong with you. And it's quite scary to hear that. And I'm aware that we'll probably never have a perfect equality in a perfect equal world, but we
yes,
need to get this gap brought down a lot. And perhaps things like your radio station and the free project stream are a big step towards that. You're getting this message out to, I don't know, countless people in India about mental health, and about saying, look, it doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you less of a woman. It doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't stop you being in employment. It doesn't, which is another thing. It doesn't mean you have to go and be locked up in an asylum. You don't have to be in a padded room. I mean, people don't have to be scared of you. You don't have to be scared of yourself. And we need to get that out there. And every little thing that we chip away is helping that. And I love the fact that I started this just as, although it was an internet radio, it's because it was easier to do it on the internet. I didn't expect it to be international. And we currently have regular people listening from around the world: Canada, the US, Portugal, the Czech Republic. We've been getting people in India and people like that following us, and Sri Lanka as well. And it's 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 humbling in a way that people are tuning in, and it makes me want to do more of these shows that we've said we're trying to build up to, where
yes,
we'll discuss mental health as well as playing the music, because it I'd like to think that if somebody in India heard a show on my station, they would then say to their friend, "Look, I've heard this. You might want to tune in. It helped me. It might help you." And even that just starts a conversation, as we say. And we need to get this conversation worldwide, and we need to have it. You know, there are a lot of important things that we need to discuss worldwide, but mental health has to be one of them, because ultimately, bad mental health can lead to death and suicides and things like that. And so many suicides can be prevented with the right help.
Yes, exactly. So once you talk about it, the other person knows what feeling you're going through, and they might not necessarily understand, but they will be there for you. Once people start talking about it, I think, yeah, like you rightly said, once you start talking about it and we create that awareness, it's definitely a step in the right direction, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, so my next question is related to music, right? So does music actually help you get through difficult times?
I think undoubtedly it does. I think everybody in the world will have had that experience, whether it's a death in a family, whether it's a breakup of a relationship, whether it's a bad day at school, university, work, whatever it is. You go home and you stick the radio on, or you stick your CD, or your MP3, it'll be now, or your streaming service, or records in my day. You would go home and you would stick your favorite songs on. It might be that if it's a relationship breakup, you put on sad songs at first, and
Yes.
it helps get it out of you. Or if you've had a bad day with your boss, you might go on and put some Slipknot on and get really angry and start moshing and head banging, and that gets it out of you. Um, the easiest time to see the effect that music has on you, I think, is when you're driving. If
Oh,
you're driving and listening, I listen to a lot of music, but I used to listen to a lot of rock and heavy metal, and I would drive faster. If I then put on some Bob Marley or some more chilled music, some more relaxed music, you start driving with your arms out the window, and it's a nice sunny day, and it definitely has that effect on you. And I think it certainly does with mental health, as we say, and with emotions, which are linked to mental health. So I think everybody has had this experience, and it's just nice now through a couple of our shows. We've got one called With a Little Help from My Music on a Monday evening, Monday afternoon, where people are sending songs in to one of our presenters, June, and they're saying, "This song helped me get through this particular thing.
oh,
Could you play it for me?" And she does, and it makes us look at these songs in a different way, because we might not link that song with a sad time or with a tough. A song that I've listened to for 20 years can suddenly bring tears to my eyes, having listened to this song under this person's thoughts. And I think it's a really powerful music. Is a really powerful. It can take you back to a time in your past like that in an instant. I think it's really, it is so tightly linked to your mental health and to your emotions.
yeah. Exactly. Like you said before, you used to drive and then put your arm out. I think so. Even if people who've not driven, or if you've sat on the back seat of the car,
Yeah,
you've heard some music, and then you sit there thinking that you're a rock star, you're in a movie, and you have those pleasant memories with
yeah,
your family. Going to places, uh, doing stuff. Yeah, exactly. Like it links your memories to either positive or negative, but what we
yeah,
hope is positive, right?
yes,
And one more thing that I like you said earlier, where you have the show on Monday, where people send in their favorite songs and what memories they associate with it.
that's
So
right.
sometimes there are times wherein there is some song that you've never heard of, and you instantly click with it, and then it gives you that feeling of being lifted, or discovering something that is otherworldly of sorts, right?
That's right.
That is
Yeah.
the feeling. Yeah, and that's a very good initiative. Thank you for letting us know. We'll definitely tune in to those Monday. Okay. So music does have effects. So so like what are few positive effects, like we link them to memories as well, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes if like I said, we don't have, like, we've not heard of a song before, and suddenly that plays. And so what are like a few positive effects that music has on your mental health?
Yeah, I mean, it's been proven through studies. Again, we touched on it in a psychology degree that um, listening to music is like eating chocolate or something. It releases endorphins, which give you a high anyway. But I mean, on a personal level, I can answer that for you now. Where I had a particularly bad breakup about 10 years ago or something, and I was listening to the Linkin Park album that had been released at that time, and there was a
Yeah.
couple of songs, and there was one particular song where it went through in my head, and over about 24 hours after listening to it two or three times through that time, because I've just got the album now, you have it on all the time when you first buy it. Um, this song came through three or four times, and I started to see in those words that there was a link to the relationship ending, about holding on to what I never had and things like that. And it was like, yeah, I didn't. If we've broken up, then it wasn't right in the first place. I now see that, and you're like, okay, time to move on, and I'm still sad, but I can get on with life. And then
Yeah.
other things where perhaps a song will come on that I haven't heard for 20 years, and it'll take me back to remembering my grandparents who've passed, and it just makes you warm, because you remember being a child, and being in the love of your family and friends and things like that. And I think it can have so many positive effects like that, as well as we said earlier. If you put certain songs on, there are certain. I mean, I don't know how big they are in India and in different parts of the world, but we had a lot of comedy songs during the 80s, particularly, sort of like one hit wonders in the UK. And you put certain songs on, and you don't notice it, but you suddenly realize you're smiling, because it's a silly song, or it's a funny song, or, as you say, it just triggers a memory from a long time ago. And it just, the endorphins are clearly what's happening, and working, but you don't need to know the science in it just to know that it's working. You feel it. You feel warm inside. You feel your mouth turn up.
Yeah. That's definitely true. Like, even if you don't, yes, I think everyone does resonate with music. Everyone has that one favorite song that
Yeah.
you know either lifts them up, or takes them through that breakup, or takes them through their life, basically,
Yeah.
until the next one comes along.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
uh, so my next question is, what do you think is the relationship that impacts music and our mental health? So, like, sometimes people make the music, and then how do
Yeah.
they go through it and stuff like that?
I think it's interesting, because having spoken to some recording artists, and having heard them interview big, huge artists being interviewed in the past and things,
Yes.
sometimes the message that they put into the music is different to the message you take out.
Yes.
So they can be writing it about this thing in their life, which you have no way of knowing what it's like,
Yeah.
but it can resonate with you. And I think that's the huge thing about music. Although you could put 100 people in a room and say, listen to this song, and you'd probably get 100 different answers for what that song's about, or what that song means to each person. And I think it can affect your mental health massively positively, but there's also the risk in the short term. I think, particularly if you listen to sad music um, for a prolonged time, it will
Yes.
bring you down. That's not necessarily a bad thing if it's done in bursts. Like I say, at the end of a relationship, we all have to grieve, or we all have to mourn that relationship and things.
Yes.
And it gets you through that period. quicker, perhaps, and I think
Yes.
that can be a benefit. But you've just got to be aware that you don't get too stuck in these things. And there has sadly been cases of like emo music, where people got stuck in it, and then it was said to have led to suicides and things. Clearly, there's more going on than just the music. There's no two ways about that. There's a mental health issue underlying it all. But
Yes.
music can be such a strong trigger, both positively and for some people negatively. I'm aware of that. And we do have a couple of shows, or we have had a couple of shows where we have said this music might not be suitable for people who have this particular underlying issue. So I think as long as you're aware of that, there's direct correlation between music and mental health, both positive
Yes.
and unfortunately negative.
Yes, that's true. We have no idea of, you know, we have no idea until someone tells us what's going on in their mind, right?
That's
This is
right.
something that you can't prove. You need to have ask questions. You need to speak about it to get the answers, right? That's true.
Yeah.
So we are nearing the end of our interview. So my last question to you is, what do you think is the most important factor in managing our mental health?
Um, I would say, firstly, is being aware. There are too many people who who have mental health issues and wait too long before discussing it, either with friends or with a professional, who think that, well, I'm down a lot or whatever. It's not important enough to discuss with somebody. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to waste the professional's time. I don't want to put this on my friends. I don't want to put this on family. And I know from first-hand experience that can take you right to the edge and over the cliff. I'm very fortunate to be here after 4 suicide attempts. Clearly, I'm here for a reason. Hopefully, it's this. So it's you. The one thing I would say is talk. If you talk to friend A and they don't seem to get it, try talking to friend B. Try talking to friend C, D, E. Talk. You may it's going to hurt perhaps, or it's going to make you feel like you're hassling people if the first 2, 3, or 4 don't necessarily understand. But trust me, one of them will. And once you find that friend who does understand, it's worth. There are groups, there are chats. Get in touch with somebody like our radio station. Get in touch with us through there. Send us a message. We will always speak to you sympathetically. We can't help you as professionals, but we can listen, and we can try and guide you to professional help elsewhere. But there's always somebody to talk to, and I think it's vital that you do that. That would be my number one thing. Talk. The old saying about a trouble shared is a trouble halved and all the rest of it is absolutely true. These sayings are around for a reason.
Yes, exactly. People have gone through this, and it's generational knowledge that has been come down. These
Yeah,
sayings.
and also it does get easier with each generation now that we're starting to face it. The generation of kids that are coming through now hopefully will be a lot more open at a lot earlier age to talking about mental health.
Yes, that's true. And that is again our goal here. So that generation wise, our grandparents definitely would have. So mental health, if they would have heard mental health, they wouldn't have related to anything. They would have been like, if you get hit in the head, it might be
Yeah.
mental health.
Yeah, we went. They fought through the war. They did this. They've seen things we could never imagine, and it
Yes.
kind of toughened them up, and they bottled it in. And post-traumatic stress and things like that were never heard of during those times, and they saw things far worse than we will. And
Yes. That's true.
it's not to say that we're soft now. I think it's just that we are more open to it, and we are more prepared to talk. And you know, it's a different world. We see a lot. We can see a lot of things on the internet that we should never see, perhaps. That we should, there's some very dark things around. Bullying is another thing. It's so much easier to be bullied from faceless people who,
Yes.
you will never be able to identify. This all leads us to where we are now, and we need to talk to break the stigma, to say, look, it's not okay to be on that side. It is okay it's okay to not be okay.
Yes,
It's
that's true.
essential.
Yes, it's okay not to be okay. That's I think the number one thing. Uh, so thank you so much for sharing everything. Coming on our show and talking about talking about mental health, talking about music related to mental health, and your thoughts on how we can manage our mental health better. Thank you so much. Uh, so before we go, we would like to thank our audiences for joining us. If you want to visit Seven Bridges the Radio, I'll put the link in the description below.
Thank
You
you.
can definitely talk to Steve and tune in. It's live 24/7, right? So you can tune in anytime you want. Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you everybody. If you like this video, please like it, share it with whoever you think is needs it,
Yeah.
or if they don't need it, at least whoever resonates with this, they will understand and they will thank you for sharing this. Um, Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good weekend and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.